Hello. Welcome to Key Talk Tuesday. I am your host, Coach Amber J with the Key to Changing Lives. It is 8 p.m. on BU Radio. Make sure that you keep tuning in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Huge shout out to everyone that watched last week's interview with our amazing key guest, Alicia Brown, who is an author, speaker, and coach. She came and gave us some major life keys on processing forgiveness. I want to repeat those keys because they have been very vital and will continue to be vital in the process of forgiveness in the rest of this month's shows. So one was talk to a safe person. Pray, give grace to that person. So I want to thank BU Radio and our producer, Natrell and Alex, for holding us down during our shows. I want to thank all the rest of the BU family for tuning in. Stay tuning in, and all of our guests who show up every Tuesday. We thank you. We appreciate all your support. So make sure you like, share, and invite someone to the show every single week. So, as you know, each month I will give a focused theme, and as your coach, I will give you keys to unlock new doors or doors that need to be locked and that no longer serve you. I am going to teach you how to become the master of your own life with using these keys in particular areas of your life: spiritual growth, personal growth, and purpose. These are the key areas I've developed in and using my keys to become the master of my own life, and I want to share those with you. So every month we will have a topic. And this month I am dealing with toxic relationship, unmasking the layers of forgiveness. So we're going to welcome March with open arms and with gratitude and appreciation for all the things that we are expecting to happen in this season and in this month. And so tonight I am super honored and grateful to introduce my guest. He is very dear and near to me. He is my spiritual covering. He is my pastor. So I want to introduce Pastor Mel Moore to the show. Thank you so much.
What's going on, everybody?
So, welcome, PM.
Listen, hello. I'm not going to really be doing much talking tonight. I'm going to let Coach do all the talking. But I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm joking. I'm ready to dive in, of course, and talk about forgiveness and everything. And I'm excited to be here tonight.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, he's being shy for the moment, but trust me, he's going to definitely give us some very vital spiritual keys on the importance of forgiveness. And this is why I wanted to bring him, because we've talked so much and he preaches and shares the importance of forgiving through healing, forgiving through pain and trauma. And so I'm super honored to have you, PM. I thank you so very much. You have shown me through your own experience, through your life, what it looks like, how to forgive, how to get through things. And like you always say, give that person grace. And so I know you understand the importance of forgiveness. So I just want to kind of like first introduce you, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Sure. My name is Pastor Mel Moore. I'm the pastor of Free Believers Church. I've actually been pastoring for the last 4 years, going on 4 years this year. Founded the church, started the church 4 years ago. Yes. I've been preaching for 17 years now. Wow. So I'm not new to this. I'm true to it.
Yes.
And I've been doing it for a very long time. We approach everything, of course, both practical and spiritual. Yes. So we believe that, of course, faith is just as much important, as a therapist
yes.
and finding good counsel and all of that. So it's not either or, it's both and.
Absolutely. And I love that you approach it that way, because it's also spiritual, but it's also having the practical keys to apply to your daily life, because it's daily. After Sunday, after Bible study, what do you do with the pain or the trauma that you're dealing with? How do you apply these spiritual principles to everyday life? And I know as I began coming under you and being a member, just learning that and seeing it being played out in practical sense every single day. Like, it's not just what you do on Sunday. How do you apply these things every single day? And so let's dive into forgiveness, because I know, especially being a pastor, you see what forgiveness could do, holding on to it, harboring, unforgiveness, but really breaking down what forgiveness means on a spiritual side is really I want people to understand, because I think sometimes we think it's just a surface thing, like, oh, I don't have to forgive and I can hold on. It doesn't actually affect me spiritually or mentally or emotionally. So I really want to dive into that sector of what forgiveness looks like and why it's important as on a spiritual side.
Well, I think one of the things that's important is to first understand what forgiveness is and what it means to forgive. One of the definitions of forgive means to stop feeling resentful or stop feeling angry.
Yeah.
So you got to, number one, know where you are. And I'm transparent. I'm honest. I'm open to be transparent with you. Forgiveness is actually something that I'm actually relearning to make sure I fully understand what it means to forgive. And I think what happens a lot of times is that we think that just because we're avoiding it, that we're healed from it.
Yeah.
No. It's just dead. It's dormant right now.
Dormant.
But if you've not fully healed from it, if you've not, of course, sought counsel, like I said, both spiritual and practical,
right.
Then that thing is going to come back up again. It's going to happen again. One of the things I was thinking of as I was on my way here, and the wind was blowing and everything, the older people, they would actually know when the rain was coming down south, because their joints would start to hurt and all of that different type of stuff. So it was based on climate change and all of that. Right. And depending on what season they were in, they started to feel those wounds. And for many of us, it's the exact same thing when it comes to things that we've not forgiven or that we've not walked out.
That's good.
For many of us, we go through these seasons where these wounds come back up again.
Yeah.
So you're feeling that pain, you're feeling that trauma, because you've not been honest with where you are. Again, the definition is to forgive means, of course, to not feel the pain, not feel the resentment of it. So if it still bothers you, if we can poke at it and it still bothers you, let's be transparent and say that, honestly, I've got some work to do because I've not forgiven those individuals.
And it's really good that you bring up that point, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people say, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. And like you said, if you don't forget, you are going to be poked at it. You are going to be triggered by it, because every time something that reminds you of that situation, because you haven't forgotten it, it's going to bring that up again. So do you believe that, saying I'll forgive you but I won't forget it is a true sense of forgiveness?
So the truth of the matter is, and I have to be transparent and honest, I don't give pretty answers. So I'm transparent and honest. I don't think that you necessarily have to forgive it. But here's the question that you should ask. What's my motive behind remembering it?
Ooh, that's good.
Am I remembering it so that I can use it later against somebody? Okay. Or am I remembering it to learn from it so that not only I don't allow it to happen again to me, but here's the thing also, so that I don't do it to somebody else? Because a lot of times the things that we're not forgiving people for are things that we've done to somebody else already.
Absolutely.
So we've got to be able to ask the question, what's my motive behind remembering this? Am I remembering it to be spiteful? Ooh. Am I remembering it to get back at the person? Right. Am I remembering it to build identity around it because I need a reason to stay angry, to stay bitter, to stay upset? Ooh. Or I need a reason for why things are not working out in my life.
Justification.
And to shift blame.
Right.
Because sometimes we use unforgiveness to shift blame on other people, to talk about the reason why I'm not here or there is because of this. So you got to ask yourself, what's my motive behind remembering it?
That is a very, very different perspective completely. Wow, I'm mind blown with that answer, because I didn't even think of it from that perspective either, because a lot of people do, you remember it to hold on to say, well, this person did this to me and this person did that, or this is why I'm stuck here because this happened. So the motive between why are you remembering that pain, why are you choosing not to forgive? And my perspective has always been on forgiving is I want to forgive and forget, but I'm going to set boundaries in place so that I won't repeat these things, or I won't allow these things to happen to me again. But even shifting it or seeing it from that perspective actually changes it as well. Like, are we remembering to hold on to it? or did I forget about it, and so this allowed it to happen again, so now I got to forgive something else.
Or even, I want to say this, Coach, even by default, when we forget it, sometimes we'll do it to somebody else.
Right.
Because we've forgotten it and we've put it out of our mind.
Yeah.
By accident, we'll do the same thing to somebody else. So that's why I kind of threw that in there, that what's my motive behind remembering it? Am I remembering this so that I learn from it, so that I don't repeat the same pattern? Because for many of us, we've taken those things that happened to us when we were children and we blocked them out of our mind. But for many of us, we've done those exact same things to our children.
Yes.
Or we've done those exact same things to other people in our lives. And it's because we did not use that as fuel to motivate us to learn from that, heal from it, and then make sure that we don't repeat the same pattern.
That's good. Shout out to everybody on the timeline. I see Minister Tiffany. I see Kana. I see John, Coach John Kurt. Thank you all for tuning in and supporting. I see a lot of good comments on here. Make sure if you guys have any questions or you want to ask anything, you can call in. I'm going to have our producers pin the number in the chat. But if you want to call and ask, or if you have a question or a situation that you would like wise counsel on from a spiritual perspective, call in. Now is the time. I want to talk about how would you have, or what would be the starting steps for someone to deal with pain or trauma to forgive? Like, how can they forgive through any pain or trauma that they may have endured? Like you said, we're dealing with things from childhood, and now you're an adult, but you're dealing with these things, but you don't even know how to begin to forgive.
I think the first thing, number one, and Coach knows this, because she's a faithful member at FBC. I think the number one thing, and I've preached on this, I've done sermons on this, we bring in therapists and counselors and all of that, to talk about these things. The first thing is that you have to recognize that something is wrong.
Woo! Wait, we got to sit right there. Say that again.
You got to be willing to recognize that something is abnormal in your life, because for many of us, our trauma becomes our normality.
Wow.
And so you've got to be willing to be measured up against what is healthy, what is normal, so that you can see that there is something wrong.
Wow.
Here's what you got to understand also. Trauma, of course, is a thing that freezes us in time.
It freezes
so whenever we've dealt with trauma, it freezes you in that moment. So that changes your perspective.
Yeah.
That changes how you act. That changes how you react. That changes all of those things, because you're frozen in that time.
Yes.
And we revert back to that place, of course, whenever we go through something that picks or pokes at that wound. So the first thing you got to do is you got to recognize that something is wrong.
Yes.
The second thing that I believe that you have to identify is what it has done to you. So number one,
there it is. Good. That is good.
I know that is wrong. I know something is wrong.
Right.
Something is off. Something is not right. But then I've got to ask myself, what has this done? So I got to, number one, do an analysis on myself. But then I also have to seek both spiritual and practical counsel to also help with that analysis.
Yeah.
Now, we did this in our Develop series when I talked about that a part of making decisions in your life is to have sober people around you who are sober in thought, sober in perspective, sober in mind, and heal.
Yeah, and heal.
Because
that's
for
important.
many of us, we got people around us who sound just like us, and this is the reason why our trauma has become our normality.
Exactly.
So you have to have people, of course, around you that are healed, that can help you to see and identify what those things look like.
Yeah.
So number one, something's wrong. I'm identifying that.
Right.
Number two, what has this done to me? And based on that, now I can seek what I need to seek in order to get healed and be healthy and be whole.
That is so good. And I think that's a huge part in growth in every aspect of life, is being self-aware. A lot of times we're not self-aware because you are around people that are not healed, so it becomes normal.
Yes.
Or maybe you're a little bit more healthier than them, so you can measure from them, but you're still unhealthy. So that is
Can we talk about this though, Coach? Can we bring this up? Because she mentioned something that's key. She said that sometimes when you're in a crowd or you're in a group that you're a little bit more healthy than them, you think that there's nothing wrong with you because you're a little bit more healthy than the people that are around you. And there's a saying that says that if you're the biggest one in your circle, then your circle is too small.
Yeah.
So you also have to be willing, of course, to rub up against people who are better than you, who are more healed than you, who are walking out, those things that you aspire to walk out. Absolutely. So that you can not only just be a little better than your crowd, but you also have to be willing to grow and develop into those areas as well.
Absolutely. And you said something key earlier too, is that trauma freezes you where you are. Not only a lot of people are growing in age, but they're not growing in maturity, they're not growing in spirituality, because that trauma has frozen them. Yeah. And then that's also an identifier to say, you know what, this hurt me these years ago, and this is why I'm still repeating these cycles, why I'm still stuck in this area of my life, why I can't keep a job, why I can't fulfill my dreams, or even know or identify who I am as a person. And so those are identifiers for anyone that may be going through or maybe on here that's saying, I've been trying to pursue something, but something's in the way. And you might want to go back and self-reflect. Like he said, number one is identify, and then two, identify how it's impacted you.
Yes.
And seek the right counsel. A lot of people don't want to go to counseling, or even, we will talk about a little bit about church hurt. Like, well, I don't want to go back to a pastor because they hurt me, or I don't want to go, see a therapist because how am I going to explain my crazy to someone? They're the same as me. And so those are identifiers, or that is where wise counsel comes from. You have to be willing to say, everyone may not be the same. I may have had an experience with this person, but I'm not going to prevent my growth to stop me from seeking somebody else.
You mentioned something, Coach. You talked about, she went into church hurt and everything and talked about that. But I want to generalize it. A lot of times what happens is a lot of our forgiveness or things that happen to us, our offense even, because really unforgiveness is because of offense. You were offended by something, whether it be justified or not, you were offended by something. But a lot of that offense comes from unrealistic expectations. For many of us, we have unrealistic expectations about things, about people, right? Yeah. And as a result, we get let down from ways that we felt like people should have been there for us. But sometimes we can have an unhealthy approach to how people should approach us or how people should be there for us. Good. So, but here's the thing. We often hold that offense against people, but then we do it to others as well. So we have to make sure we understand that if you want grace or if you want forgiveness, then you've got to be willing to forgive too. You can't want everybody to forgive you and then you're holding a grudge against everybody else.
Right. And two, I also want to talk about vulnerability, because being vulnerable is also the process in being able to forgive. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people are offended and you don't even know that you've offended a person because they are not even vulnerable or honest to come and tell you, hey, what you said, how you approached me, it hurt me. Yeah. And so you're walking away with hurt and anger and holding grudges towards people who even have no clue that they've offended you. Yep. So that's another thing that I really want to talk about with forgiveness too, is a lot of grudges that you're holding on to, people don't even know that they offended you. Yes. And so that for me is a key, is being vulnerable and honest that, one, I was offended, and let me address this person to share with them what they did to me affected me, it hurt me. And so if I address it and then they don't handle it or they don't recognize it in a certain way that you want, then decide on how to move forward. But a lot of people, you're holding on to anger and bitterness and hurt from something you perceived as intentional, and it had nothing to do with that.
Absolutely. And then here's the thing too, even when it comes to, like you talked about as it relates to forgiveness and everything, here's what we got to understand as well. Forgiveness is also a process. And this is something that I've even had to learn, that from the perspective of understanding, forgiveness, that it is a process. And here's what it's better for you to say, I'm not ready, and handle it in the moment, in the time, of course, that you start to become ready. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that just because you're not ready, you get to push it off and avoid it.
Yeah, that's
when
good.
You say that I'm not ready, what are you doing to prepare?
Yeah.
What are you doing to actually get ready? It's okay to not be ready in the moment, to have the conversation, to talk, or whatever it is. But what are you doing to actually prepare, right?
Right.
So for my 12-year-old son, I'm not going to give my son my my keys because he's not ready to drive.
Right.
But when he gets old enough, he's going to start to prepare, right, to drive. Yeah. And then I'll give him the keys once he's proven himself. And so you've got to have people around you, like you talked about, Coach, people that you can be vulnerable with.
Yeah. Your safe
people that you can, your safe place. People that you can be open with.
Yeah.
People that you can be honest with. For many of you, you've got circles where all of y'all competing against each other and nobody can be honest.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why you can't heal, because that circle is competing against each other, going against each other, and it becomes a toxic circle of everybody, going against and trying to prove themselves. Yeah. So you got to have that safe place. That's good.
That is so good. And I think even for me, like, coming to a church and coming to Free Believers, it was like it felt home, it felt safe, because you have created an atmosphere where it is safe to be yourself. It's safe to say, I'm here and I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now. I'm having a bad day. And creating those spaces where you can be vulnerable and honest to be where you are. And the key thing to healing is that you're stuck here right now, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Yes.
It's a choice, and forgiveness all in itself is a choice to say, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I know that there's freedom, there's joy, there's happiness. And a lot of times you're upset with those people that are able to walk in that. And that's also where some more of you're picking up some more of the anger and the bitterness, is because you see other people, or where the coveting or the jealousy comes in, is because you see somebody walking in freedom, but you have the opportunity to do the same. And so tonight I really want some people to really, really be able to be free. Be free to be who you've been called to be free to be happy, be free to be able to communicate with your family again. I was talking to a couple this weekend, and I was just sharing, like, until you deal with this, you can't go forward, because you've brought baggage from your past relationship into a new relationship, and you've already sabotaged this relationship because you didn't forgive or heal from the last one.
Wounds.
And
wounds.
So a lot of times we're putting band-aids on things that need stitches, or things that need to be, you need to go to the hospital and get it broken back into place. And so I really want tonight for you guys to see the importance of forgiving and the freedom in forgiving. Let's talk about a little bit of the freedom in forgiving.
You were just talking about the baggage that you bring and everything, and I kind of just wanted to deal with that. Even when we go into freedom, we gotta identify those wounds.
Yeah.
Because you can't be free from something that you don't see as a problem. So you gotta be willing to journey through identifying those wounds. When you identify those wounds, and let me share with you what a wound is. The wound, honestly, that happens in our lives, they're usually measured by proximity of the person, or they're measured by the weight of the offense. Good. So you stealing a piece of candy from me is different from you stealing my car.
Wow.
That's the weight of the offense, right? It's two different things. But then it's also proximity of the person, right?
Write that down,
so if somebody is close to me, it's going to be different from somebody who is a stranger to me, right? And a lot of times those wounds are measured, they're deep or they're big. They become big based on, again, proximity of the person or the weight of the offense. And so we have to be willing to identify that as well. Like you said, Coach, we put band-aids on things that really need surgery.
Yeah.
So you got to identify the weight of that offense, but then you also have to identify who hurt you and why it offended you and why it did what it did before you can even move into forgiveness.
And even with you saying identifying who hurt you, because sometimes what happens with not forgiving is you may go into a new relationship, but you never forgave your mother, right? So now you're in a relationship with this with a woman, and she says something or she does something and it triggers you. So a lot of times you're triggered. So that, I think that's a huge key that I hope you guys pick up, is identifying who hurt you and go there first. Go there where that hurt is, from that very first trauma, that first wound, because everything else is just a layer of a band-aid or a scab or a scar that's built up over time. And then identifying that, because a lot of times you're triggered by the wound that was never healed in the first place.
And you got to be willing to have the conversation. Got to be willing to have a conversation. You said something, Coach, that was crucial. You said some people that we deem that hurt us, they don't even know that they hurt us.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to have the conversation. When Jesus on the cross, he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And there are some people who have done things to you, or may have even said the wrong thing to you, that didn't know that they were offending you.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to have the conversation, because ultimately it may not have been your fault of what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to deal with it. It is your responsibility.
That is so good. And I think, like I said, it's a choice to be able to forgive. It's also your responsibility to heal.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially as adults, you didn't have control as a child of what happened to you, but you do now have a choice and a responsibility to grow, to heal, to deal with those things that did take place. But you can't keep blaming, oh, it's my mama's fault, oh, it's my daddy's fault, oh, it's because of this, because now you're an adult and you have a choice to be able to choose to let go, to forgive, to deal with, and not continue to bleed on other people. I'm going to go back to the conversation I had this weekend with the relationship. Is this person was dealing with things that happened to him as a child that was being now poured onto somebody as an adult.
Wow.
So you're bleeding on people that never hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's what unforgiveness does. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you in patterns. It keeps you in broken relationships, broken cycles, or patterns and behaviors where anywhere you go, you're going to see those things show up, and you're going to always be blamed at the blame game. Let's deal with that. What would you say, or how would you help someone or assist someone into getting out of that mindset or that cycle of blame or guilt or shame?
Ownership. So again, it goes back to it may not have been your fault in terms of what happened to you, but some of us hold on to grudges from people who are already dead and gone.
Ooh, that's good.
So because they're in the grave, like, are you going to allow yourself to stay in the grave as well with that person? And there's a pull on you. You're in the grave with that person. So when they died, so that the forgiveness, and it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to come up with a pattern and a process, of course, to move forward. I said this in the beginning, and I stand by it. For me, I am someone who's learning forgiveness in terms of what it takes, the process of it. The word forgiveness does mean, if you look it up, it does mean process, right? The process of it. So I'm even learning what it takes to forgive. I got a therapist and a counselor. It's important to have these things so that you can grow and develop, because like Coach said, if you don't, of course, get healing from those things, and you don't develop from those places, it becomes your identity. So you see everything. This is the reason why we bleed everything, or we bleed these things on other people, because we see everything from that lens. So we see it from we see it from the lens of hurt, from the lens of pain, from the lens of a disappointment, from the lens of abuse, from the lens of whatever it is. And again, whatever that behavior was, it becomes normal to you if you don't deal with it. So we all have to be willing to look in the mirror, see those things, of course, that need to be developed, see those things that need to be healed, so that we can move to a greater us of who we've been called to be. And
even talking about, with forgiving or holding on to grudges to somebody that is dead, that was a process that I went through for myself, is because I dealt with the situation where the person did pass away. And I was angry, and I was hurt, and I was mad, waking up having nightmares and just being so angry, and me saying, oh, I'm a forgiving person. It was very hard for me to forgive this person, and it made me that much more angry, because I'm like, this person is dead and they're still affecting me. Why? And so I understand the process. It was a process. But I remember saying to myself, you know what? I can't allow this person to still affect my life, because I'm not dead, and I'm not going to allow what happened to me or what they did to me keep holding me hostage, because I'm not dead. And that is where this course that I want to share with you guys later, the 7-day intense course, is can you forgive someone who will never be sorry? And in this place, this woman was dead. She could not tell me sorry, and I'm pretty sure if she was alive, she wouldn't tell me sorry. So I had to deal with that and say, you know what? I'm not going to allow this to continue to keep me stuck or allow me to be buried buried or dead with her because of the unforgiveness, because of the hurt, because of the trauma. And so I leave that with you guys as before we get ready to prepare for a break. I leave that with you. Are you laying dead with someone who is buried and you're pretty much buried with them, but you're alive? And so you have a choice. What are you going to choose tonight?
Come on, choose life.
You know, you didn't hear this by accident. You didn't come across this live by accident. But I really want to deal with forgiveness because I believe it's a core root why so many people are stuck.
Yes.
And so this is a key conversation that you can take. And I want to leave you with that question. Are you buried with someone because of the hurt, because of the unforgiveness, because of the offense? And so we're going to take a quick break and be right back with you guys. But think about that. And again, if you have questions, make sure as we come back on, you can call BU Radio. Stay tuned. We will be back shortly.
K. Hey, mama. Hey, ma. I can sing too. Let me show you what I got, ma. Be in the studio, just like you. Let me show you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Edition.
It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify. Sam. It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify. Yes, I am. It's gonna be alright. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify that I am. Yes, I am. It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify that yes, I am. I'm loved. I'm right. It's gonna be alright. Yes, I am. 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 It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify that I am. Yes, I am. It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify that I am. Yes, I am. I'm loved. I'm right. It's gonna be alright. Yes, I am. 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 I'm loved. I'm right. It's gonna be alright. Yes, I am. 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 I'm loved. I'm right. It's gonna be alright. Yes, I am. 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 I am not. It's gonna be alright. I told you, testify. I'm giving you testify. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. It's been a journey, it's been a ride. I just really wanna testify. Sam.
Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, to Edition, man.
Well, hello. Welcome back. It is Key Talk Tuesday with yours truly, Coach Amber J. And I am honored to have Pastor Mel Monroe on this live tonight. Mel Moore, I'm sorry. On this live tonight. And we are discussing this little pesty thing that comes in. It's sneaky. It paralyzes so many. The truth behind forgiveness. We want to unmask and pull back the curtains. There was a comment a comment on the feed that we would like to go back to. Also, with the question that we left you, are you laying dead with somebody because you have chosen not to forgive and release them? And Minister Tiffany Michelle Brown says, sometimes you don't even know you have a wound until it's triggered.
Let me tell you why that's good, though.
Yeah.
The reason why that's good is because this is the same thing that happens when we go to the doctor.
Yeah.
In the place that you tell the doctor that it hurts, or even if you say, well, I can't identify where the pain is, they ask you, say, where's the pain? You may say, I don't know. If you can't identify it, they're going to start poking around.
Right.
And when they start poking around, their purpose is to trigger the pain. So they want to trigger it so that they can figure out where it is.
Yeah.
What happens, though, when they trigger it is that they trigger it to prescribe it.
Ooh, that's good.
They trigger it to prescribe it. So when you find that your triggers are there, what are you doing about it? Are you getting the necessary prescription to heal from that place? And that's a really good thing to recognize, that you have to understand when you have those moments and those opportunities, and I call them opportunities because they're opportunities to grow, they're opportunities to develop, they're opportunities to become a better you. So when you have those moments that those things come up, what's your plan to prescribe? You've got to make sure, of course, that you have something to prescribe. I thought that was a really good comment.
That is a very good comment, and that's true. Like you said, once it's triggered, then what are you going to do? I know when I was teaching the course of codependency, we spoke about that. We spoke about triggers, but we call it coming out sideways. And a lot of times you're coming out sideways on people because you've now been triggered. But what do you do when you're bleeding out, or when you're cut, or you're poked? What are you doing? And that is the key tonight, is what are you going to do? You know you're angry, you know you're upset, you know you're bitter, you know you're holding and holding on to these feelings. What are you now going to do? And I don't want to leave you with not being able to do anything. I want you to know, one, you have the choice to say, you know what, I'm going to choose to forgive and to let go and to release, or just begin the process.
Yes.
Because it is a process. You may have to forgive someone over and over and over and over and over. And even in the 7-day course that I want to give to you guys later, I talk about a scent of a person, a thought of a person, a place. Forgiveness is just not the person. You may have to go back all the way in time on the day that it happened, the moment it happened, the hour. Some people get triggered by a song, by a sound, and all of those things also require forgiveness, so that those things will not trigger you, and you will be able to go certain places and do certain things because you have released yourself of that. Or release them from that. And I want to go back and just kind of break down forgiveness and the meaning of it in its definition. It says forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by which a victim undergoes a change in feelings and attitude regarding an offense and willingness to excuse it. So all of these things is pretty much something you have to do. Nobody else can do it for you. Intentional. And healing and growing has to be intentional. You have to wake up every day and say, I no longer want to stay there anymore. I was talking to a girl last night, and we were talking about, she was like, I remember feeling like I was living in hell on earth, being in this toxic relationship with her ex. And I was like, explain, what do you mean? She was like, I remember one day I said, I've been in hell long enough and I want to live on the other side. And she said, so I had to leave him because I was so triggered, I was so hurt. I remember I would forgive him for one thing and then something else happened, so I had to forgive him again. And she was like, I didn't want to be there no more, and so I had to make a choice to say, I want to be able to live on the other side of that. And what a lot of people don't understand, on the other side of this hurt, on the other side of offense, there's joy, there's peace, there's happiness. And so can we talk a little bit about that from the spiritual aspect of what is on the other side of forgiveness?
Absolutely. So on the other side of forgiveness, of course, you have the opportunity to live out loud, as we say. You have the opportunity, of course, to become who you're supposed to become. You have to be willing to value your healing, value who you're supposed to become, value your destiny, value your purpose. But also it starts with, like you were talking about the situation, with the girl, it starts with changing the pattern.
Yeah. Breaking the
pattern. So for many of us, breaking that pattern and changing how you approach decisions. So if you find yourself keep getting in situations, of course, where you have to break away from, then there is something that's broken when it comes to how you approach, a problem, how you approach a situation, how you approach, finding solutions for things. Right. And of course, we measure, especially when it comes to your faith, this is the reason why it's both spiritual and practical, because you're going to get that help that's sober practically, but you're also going to get that help spiritually, right? Where you have a prayer life, you have devotion, you're staying in your word, you're doing what's necessary to make sure that you stay sober. Yeah. Because if you don't stay sober, all of these things are going to kind of creep in, and you're going to start to make decisions based on your trauma and not based on your testimony.
Oh, that's good. And I think that kind of answers a question that's in the live. It says, what's the healthy next step after we forgive those people? And I think pretty much what Pastor Mel just said is staying in your word, staying with wise counsel. Those steps are the next steps, because again, forgiveness is a process. So that means you're going to have to keep doing those same things over and over and over, so that you don't get in that place of being stuck or being triggered. So you're going to, again, being aware, being self-aware is one, identifying those things. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jesus says, pray for your enemies. Woo. If you can't pray for your enemies, then again, there's a problem. Like I said, for me, even with walking out, and again, I'm a pastor. I've been preaching for 17 years. I've been pastoring for 4 years. I'm a psych major as well. Yeah. It's finals week. I only had 2.5 hours of sleep last night. So
thank you.
So even when it comes to that, but even with me being a psych major and all of this stuff, this is something that I have to practice. Yeah. Coach Amber said, of course, that when it comes to forgiveness, it's a process. It's a voluntary process. It's an intentional process. Yeah. So you have to remember, just because you said I forgive them, it doesn't stop there.
Yeah. Right.
So don't be mad or angry at yourself also if these things start to come up again. Right. You have to be committed to the process. Yes. Committed every day to waking up, forgiving those individuals so that you can move forward.
And I want to also touch in self-forgiveness, and it also looks like Tiffany made a comment. Self-forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools for growth. Yes. You also have to be willing, and I think most people forget to forgive themselves first. Yes. Because you have to realize that you also were a part of whatever that offense was, whatever that hurt was, whatever that trauma is. So even beginning to just be able to forgive yourself. A lot of people will be healed if they go and say sorry to themselves. Yes. I apologize for letting myself down, for putting myself in that situation. I knew better, but I still did it. And so even tonight, if there's some people that may be going through, start there. That's the next step, is saying, you know what would I need, or what would I need for myself that I'm going to give to somebody else? Yes. And let that be a two-way part.
Coach, you said something. You said that you have to remember that you were a part of it. Right. And there may be somebody on here, you're like, well, I wasn't a part of it. They did it to me. Here's the thing. You were a part of it, whether it was voluntary or involuntarily. Right. You were a part of it. And that's the thing, that you have to recognize. This thing happened to me, whether I played a part in it voluntarily or I played a part in it involuntarily. I was a part of it, and it has affected me. Yeah. And you have to understand that years of trauma isn't going to be broken in a moment of prayer.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm a pastor, and I'm telling you that. It is counsel. It is prayer. It is all of these things. You're not going to break years of trauma in just one little emotional moment. Right. You have to be willing to journey through healing so that you never return back to that thing again.
Oh, that's good. That is so good. Journey through healing.
Journey through
that is so good. I mean, because a lot of people do, and I think that too, you have the unrealistic expectations of, okay, well, I talked about it, I brought it up, now it should be gone. No, that's just one layer. That's just one layer. So we have to unmask.
That's the start.
Deep wounds, right? and a lot of time the trauma, like you said, is so deep, it's so embedded in, especially if it's years of trauma that you've experienced. It's gonna take years to unravel, to unlayer, and you may be triggered. And another thing I really want to point out is sometimes it's okay to sit in those places. A lot of times we don't want to sit in that hurt. We don't want to feel it, or we don't want to think about it because it brings back emotions that you don't like.
Yes.
But sometimes in order to heal, you have to sit in that place of hurt. You have to sit in that pain in order to actually go through it.
Yes.
And that pain may hurt. It may be ugly, but allow yourself that space to have some ugly cries, to sit and yell and scream and hurt in those moments, to actually bring it up so that you can heal through it.
And yell and scream in safe places, and safe spaces.
Right.
You know, because sometimes, you know, you may be in an emotional position where you may not trust yourself emotional or whatever it is. So, you know, whether it be done in front of a counselor, in front of a therapist, in front of a trusted friend who's sober-minded, right?
Yes.
Allow yourself those moments to do what you need to do. I know one thing that they push a lot, you know, in that particular field is journaling.
Yes. Yeah.
Allow yourself to journal. Now, here's the thing. I hate journaling. Okay? I hate journaling. Here's what I do. Instead of writing it, I record it.
I was just going to suggest that.
So instead of writing it, I record it. I've found literally in my iCloud, I found journals that I recorded that are years old.
Wow.
And I've been able to process and measure my growth.
Ooh, that's
because
good.
You need something to be able to measure your growth by. What journaling is going to do is it's going to allow you to measure how far you've come.
Yep.
So if you still sound like yourself from 2017, then you've not come that far.
You've not come that far. And that's okay.
And that's okay as long as you're progressing forward. As long as you're progressing forward. If you fall, that's fine. We're going to get you restored. We're going to get you healed. The coach is here for that. We're going to get you restored. We're going to get you healed. We're going to get you on the right journey and on the right track. But you have to, of course, value your healing and value your testimony over your trauma.
Yes, and I think that's such a key point, because I do find a lot of people that don't feel safe with journaling, don't feel like they you know, what if somebody finds this or whatever, but there's other ways that you can still get it out. Mm-hmm. The key is to get it out. A lot of times there's suppressed feelings that is why you're so easily triggered. That's why you're so easily offended, because you've suppressed for years these emotions that you don't want to deal with. And journaling allows you to express emotions that you didn't even realize you had in you. And I'm sure even in, like you said, you're recording, when sometimes you just start talking, things come out, because whatever is in the heart is going to flow out of the mouth. And a lot of the times you need to get it out. And those are ways that you can actually implement in getting help. And that is a huge part in healing, is releasing those feelings. You can't get anything new unless you're willing to let some things out.
Absolutely. At our church, when we do corporate prayer, we have like 10 minutes after corporate prayer, and everybody just sits down and we journal. So whatever we're experiencing, whatever we're feeling, whatever we feel like, you know, like the Spirit of God was saying to us, we journal that thing out, you know, so that we can have it on paper, because it gives you a measuring point, right? An opportunity to measure what's going on in your life and what's happening.
Absolutely. So we're coming to the last 10 minutes. I want to give you the opportunity to share where they can find you, all of your platforms, so that they can reach you. If anyone is looking for a church, a pastor, wise counsel, these are opportunities, resources that are available to you. Free at charge. Church is free. Our church is still open. So if you need a place to be able to go and journey through this healing, and you're tired of being in this stuck place, I want to give you the opportunity, PM, to go ahead and share Free Believers and all of that.
The number one thing that I want to say, first of all, whoever is watching and this is ministering to you, I want to tell you, of course, that whatever you're going through, somebody else has already gone through it already. So even though you feel like you're alone, and even though you feel like you're the only person going through it, I guarantee you that somebody else has your story. And the reason why you've got to make it is because after you get healed, and you're going to have the responsibility of helping other people to get healed as well. So not only has somebody gone through what you've gone through, but I want to remind you also that somebody also died for what you're going through and what you've had to deal with. And if, of course, this is speaking to you, you can find our page, Free Believers Church. You can find it on Instagram, of course, at Free Believers Church LV. You can find us, you can follow us, you can meet us at church. Like you said, we are open, we are sanitized, it's sprayed every week. We have masks at the door, all of that stuff. We take temperatures at the door.
Yes.
If you need to be in the atmosphere, we want you to heal. We want you to be whole. We want to restore you back to that place, that original place, that factory setting, of course, that God wants you to be at, and we're going to help you to do that. So find us, follow us, like the page, like the Instagram page, follow the Instagram page, whatever you need to do to connect.
Yes. And Tiffany put in the comments, text connect to 833-540-0111 to connect to the ministry and receive updates from FBC. So thank you so much, Minister Tiffany, for sharing that. PM, I am honored. I thank you. I'm always looking for your wise counsel. I thank you for your transparency and your honesty. And I just thank you for being who you are. So thank you again for tonight. Only on 2 hours of sleep.
This was fun. I enjoyed it. So I appreciate Coach Amber for having this platform for us to heal.
Yes, and so before we get off, I just want to leave you. I am Coach Amber J. You can find me every Tuesday here on Key Talk Tuesday. But if you're ready and you're tired of being stuck and you're ready to move forward, DM me. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can also go to the website and do a 30-minute free consultation with me. But I also want to share with you guys tonight this 7-day intense course program, the Freedom of Forgiveness, a 7-day intense course to freedom. Forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by a choice. You have to choose to do this. And so in those 7 days, you're going to do self-forgiveness. You're going to forgive God or your higher power, forgiving family, forgiving toxic relationships, friendships, coping and dealing with forgiveness. And so in that 7 days, you will be able to actually identify, recognize, go through, and journey through an area of forgiveness. And so if that's something that you're like, you know what, I need that, I need help, I'm offering it all month for the rest of this month. It's valued at $247, but I'm offering it for $67. So you can go to my website, thekeytochanginglives.com, get the program, get the help, invest in you. There's no greater investment than the investment in you, because whatever you put in, you get to share and give out. And so every week, Key Talk Tuesdays, I'm giving you keys and tools that you can implement to become the master key of your life. It all begins with you. You get to choose how you want to show up, who you want to become. And so I hope that you want to become the best version of you. I love you all. You are amazing. Again, please go follow FBC. If you don't want to go to church, you just need a good word and you want to hear truth, follow Free Believers Church. It's free to you. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, what would you have?
Thursday Bible
study, Monday morning prayer, Sunday service. And so it's here for you. You guys don't stay stuck. We're in 2021. Life is happening. It's continuing. We passed it. We made it through a pandemic. We've a lot of people have overcome COVID. You've made so many growths and strides in your life. Don't stay stuck. Continue to grow. Become who God has called you to be. You all have a purpose. Like he said, you may be in a dark place right now, but somebody's going to need to hear your story and your testimony. So let it be now. Don't wait. What are you waiting for? Choose you today. So I love you all. Continue to be amazing. Continue to stay tuned. Shout out to BU Radio and all the hosts that came onto the lives in the comments. We appreciate you. We love you for the support, the platform. Make sure y'all tune in to BU Radio every week. There's so many amazing shows that they have every single week. And the support is here. The help is here. The resources are here. If you don't want to invest, you don't have the actual money, get the free resources. They're all available. Absolutely. So I love you all. Until next week, it is yours truly, Coach Amber J. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Potato sugar?
Yes.
Django isn't a slave. Django is a free man. You understand? You can't treat him like any of the other niggas around here, cause he ain't like any of the other niggas around here. You got it?
Yearning for your validation.
Validation.
All in hopes I'm in the conversation.
All in hopes.
Pour so much of me into you. Can't believe I ain't never feel for me instead of you. I slide in the coupe, I lose the roof. I slide for the truth, slide by no rules. It rain, take a hoops, drop a prayer on the screw.
One time.
Ride on my side, I ever lose. I wanna be humble, but I gotta flex. Son of niggas, don't wanna humble, but I respect.
Respect me, niggas.
Do it my way, they say it's left. To the left, never sell my soul like I left. I don't need nobody else.
Yeah, right.
I'm lying to myself. Talking physical, dog spiritual. All these opportunities is higher right to tell. Got to tell me my advice, keep moving. If not, you can lose it. I'm on the clueless, knowing they can never do this. Back, tell them pessimists they need to spun. Back, when they're realized my mind. I don't need nobody else.
No, I don't.
Tell me yourself.
What you say?
You the God is your help. Just let it go and never dwell.
My advice.
Unless they go to you. My advice. Love in the middle, tell the truth. My advice. Sometimes you gotta break the rules. My advice. Stand for something or die for nothing.
My advice.
Facts on I would tell my younger self. Yeah. You should never go and let. Yeah.